Okay, so we are going to talk about food, and the only goal that I have is to help you guys to have a better relationship with food. So I can make you see through a lot of things, but you'll have to do your own work. So let's just get into this. So, my story with food is that as a kid, I used to eat a lot of chips, a lot of sugary biscuits, and it was a everyday thing for me. So, whenever I used to go to get some milk, with whatever money is left, I would get myself some chips and some sweet biscuits. That this was happening every day. So at least my kid self or my early teenage years were at least the taste receptors were pretty numbed out now that I think of it. So obviously as a result of it I did not enjoy the food that my mom made, and yeah, I was just hooked on the chips and the biscuits. Fast forwarding to uh, young adulthood, so something in my life goes wrong, and we're not going into that now, but something goes wrong, and suddenly I think to myself that I do not deserve good food. And for me right now, good food is these chips, all these sugary sweets, etc., etc. So I think to myself, I don't deserve all of this. So I start to starve myself of these foods, even though the cravings are there, but I just would not eat any of that. And I did that for a while, and I was basically just eating boiled eggs and a little bit of food that my mom was making. I've I think I cut down my carbs significantly. I did not want to eat for a while, and I remember those days that those were like crazy sad days. But yeah, those days were there, and I remember being so lean, like my abs were visible, my ab veins were visible, but I was like so hollow on the inside, and it felt good when I saw myself like that. But on the inside, I know it was not fulfilling at all. So after that, after this phase of feeling bad about myself, I had this friend. Basically, a marathon was gonna happen on a mountain, and he just sent me the message, and he was like, Arnav, do you want to do this with me? And I was like, I was hooked. I was hooked because I always had this that I want to do something physically, because I had all this energy and I wanted to move my body, right? So I started training for the marathon, and the food side of the marathon, by the way, if you guys don't know, endurance needs a lot of fuel, a lot of food, a lot of carbs. And my younger self who wanted to suffer for XYZ reasons, did not understand that you require food. Only when I completed my first 25-kilometer run, I realized that I would have to eat, otherwise I would not be able to do the marathon. And just because of the marathon, I started eating again. I started eating my mom's food, and I started also eating these other sugary stuff. Not the chips because they were fried. I also grew up, started to hating these fried foods because simply because the amount of calories are just too high. And so I started eating carbs again, and my marathon prep was going really good. I completed the marathon also, and fast forward all of that marathon prep, I realized that you need food to function. You need food to function, and food is meant to, you know, fulfill the body's needs, not your brain's need to get dopamine. Now, let me get into that deeper. See, all these sugary stuff, all this junk food, they're packed with a lot of things that naturally we get from different foods. So imagine this way. Um, let's say it's a burger. So you have a chicken patty, you have sweet sauces, right? Fried patties, and you're getting a lot of these different good stuff that usually you would get from different things naturally. So your brain is like, whoa, what's happening? Dopamine, dopamine, dopamine. This is a lot of nutrition, and maybe if we get more of it, our body will go grow better, but that's not how it happens, right? So I guess all these junk foods are just made so that your brain, you know, shoots fireworks of dopamine, and so that it just gets you addicted to that food. And then after that, all this anticipation of having it starts, and that anticipation is even bigger than when you eat the food, right? You have you would have experienced the anticipation trigger being bigger than, actually eating the food. So now what? Now what? Now that you know that this is what is happening, that the mental chemicals of your brain have been hijacked, what to do now? Well, see, um, if you try to cut everything at once, well, that won't work because your even the mental circuits that form have a certain limit, and they can be overridden, but it takes time, and you can't cut down all of them to zero. So, and you would not want to cut them to zero unless you have a self-hatred phase going on. But but what I'll suggest you is to have something like a 1 day gap, something like a 2 day gap, where you skip whatever you don't want to eat for a day, and then go back to eating it, and then having another day. If you do that, you'll have 15 days of eating good food and 15 days of eating bad food. It is good. This thing is good if you're someone who is eating all this junk 30 days a month. If you're someone who finds yourself eating for like 3 weeks in a month, then maybe leave 2 days or 3 days. You understand what I'm saying here. Just do the math and increase the number of days you eat the good stuff monthly, gradually. So I know it's a lot of tracking to do. I know it's a lot of work to do, but trust me, having some structure to follow is better than mindlessly eating anything. And once this structure, when you hold on to the structure, you'll also realize that, okay, the junk food that you've been eating is actually not so good. Even it does not even taste so good. There is this difference between good food and food that tastes good, that is not inherently good. And you'll realize that very soon if you stick to that discipline of following when to eat, the junk, and when not to eat it. So That is the thing. The thing is that the solution to eating nicely is that you have to follow a structure, and if you don't follow a structure, your brain would just follow novelty, and it would make you eat new things or just get back to the old patterns. If you don't introduce yourself to a new pattern, your brain would go back to the older ones. And it is, see, even when you follow the structure, there would be days when you would slip. That is fine. You just have to make sure that there is some monthly progress. Don't worry if you slip 1 or 2 days. Just make sure that you improved in the overall month by a day or two. All right, that's the whole thing. And when you do that for like 3 to 6 months, a you'll have certainly, like, grown in terms of your eating habits, and you would feel better. So just understand that it is a bigger process, but it's also a slower process in terms of if you think of your whole life. But sometimes we want things instantly, and we um, work ourselves up really hard. We beat ourselves up really hard, and that's not a good thing, right? We have a lot of time to make things better. So yeah, just work on it, guys. Just work on it. And I feel incorporating some amount of endurance activities. I'm not saying go run a marathon, but if you can do it. But running, you can start running, you can start cycling if you want, you can start swimming, anything. If you play sports, play your sport, but just know when to indulge and when not to. Don't mindlessly eat. Have a structure to follow, and that is what will, take you forward towards having a better relationship with food. So that's it, guys.